Hello, everyone. Welcome to English Insights. Today, we will explore a surprising story about one of the greatest scientists in history, Albert Einstein. Many people have heard that Einstein was once kicked out of school because he was too stupid. But is that really true? In this lesson, we will discover the truth behind this famous story. We will learn about Einstein's childhood, his problems at school, and how he became a genius who changed the world. This topic is not only interesting, it will also help you improve your English listening and vocabulary. Now, let's get started. Part 1. The Young Albert. Albert Einstein was born in Germany in 1879. When he was a baby, his parents worried because he started speaking very late. Some people even thought there might be something wrong with him. But young Albert was not slow. He was simply quiet and thoughtful. He liked to observe things around him and think deeply about how they worked. As a child, Albert was curious about everything. He often asked his parents and teachers questions that were difficult to answer. Once, his father showed him a small compass. Albert was amazed that the needle always pointed in the same direction, even when he turned it. He spent hours thinking about the invisible force behind it. This small moment made him love science. However, school was not an easy place for him. At that time, German schools were very strict. Teachers wanted students to memorize lessons and follow rules. Albert did not enjoy learning that way. He wanted to understand ideas, not just remember them. Because he asked too many questions and did not always agree with his teachers, they thought he was lazy or disrespectful. Some stories say that Einstein was a bad student, but that is not true. He was actually very good at math and physics, even when he was young. He often studied these subjects on his own, reading books that were far above his level. But in other subjects, like language and history, he did not do so well because he found them boring. Einstein's teachers sometimes became angry with him. One teacher even said, "You will never amount to anything." Those words hurt him, but he did not stop learning. Instead, he focused more on what he loved, science, and problem-solving. His family noticed his talent and supported him. Later, when people said that Einstein had been kicked out of school, they misunderstood his story. He did leave school before finishing, but not because he was stupid. He left because he disliked the teaching style and wanted to continue his education in another place. The truth is, Einstein was never a bad student. He just didn't fit the normal school system. Even as a young boy, Albert Einstein showed something special. He wanted to understand the world in his own way. His curiosity and independent thinking would later make him one of the most important scientists of all time. Part 2. Trouble at School. When Albert Einstein grew older, school became even harder for him. The education system in Germany at that time was very strict. Students had to sit quietly, listen to the teacher, and repeat what they were told. Creativity and curiosity were not welcome. For someone like Albert, who loved asking questions and thinking for himself, this was a real problem. Albert often felt bored in class. He didn't like memorizing long texts or doing exercises without understanding the reason behind them. He preferred to study ideas and discover how things worked. When teachers gave him simple answers, he wanted to know more. Sometimes he asked so many questions that teachers became angry. One day, a teacher told him, "You will never be successful in life if you keep questioning everything." These words stayed in Albert's mind for many years. He didn't want to be rude, but he also didn't want to stop thinking. He simply believed that learning should be about understanding, not about fear. Einstein's school life was not just difficult because of the lessons. The teachers also thought he was too independent. They didn't like his way of thinking or his quiet personality. Some of them even told him to leave school. But in truth, Einstein was not expelled. He chose to leave because he could not stand the system anymore. At that time, his family decided to move to Italy. Albert stayed in Germany for a short while to finish his studies, but he felt unhappy. He missed his family and wanted to join them. When he finally left school and went to Italy, he was free for the first time in his life. He spent his days reading books and studying subjects that truly interested him, like mathematics and physics. In Italy, he realized that he could learn better on his own. He started to plan his next step, to apply to a new school in Switzerland, where education was more open and creative. Einstein hoped that this new environment would allow him to study in his own way. The story that Einstein was kicked out of school for being stupid began many years later, but it was not true. The misunderstanding came from the fact that he left school early and didn't follow the rules. People thought that leaving school meant failure, but for Einstein, it was a beginning. His school years were not easy, but they helped him understand something very important. Real learning happens when you are free to think, ask, and explore. This idea stayed with him for the rest of his life and later became one of the reasons he became a great scientist. Part 3. A Curious Mind. After leaving his old school, Albert Einstein began a new chapter of his life. He moved to Switzerland, where education was more modern and friendly. Here, students were allowed to think freely and ask questions. This was perfect for Albert because curiosity was part of his nature. Albert was not just a good student. He was a true thinker. He wanted to understand how the world worked, from the smallest atoms to the biggest stars. Every time he looked at the sky, he felt amazed. He often said that Imagination was more important than knowledge because imagination helped people create new ideas. At his new school, Albert finally felt happy. He met teachers who respected his way of thinking. They did not punish him for asking questions. Instead, they encouraged him to explore more. He spent many hours in the library reading books about mathematics, physics, and philosophy. His favorite subjects were light, energy, and time, things that seemed simple but were full of mysteries. Einstein's classmates also noticed that he was different. While other students studied to pass exams, Albert studied to satisfy his curiosity. He sometimes forgot to eat or sleep because he was too focused on solving a problem. His teachers said that he had a burning curiosity, which means he could not stop thinking until he found an answer. Even outside school, Einstein continued learning. He liked to walk alone, thinking about the universe. He once imagined what it would be like to ride on a beam of light. This simple question, just a thought from a curious young man, would later lead to his famous theory of relativity. Albert's curiosity sometimes made life harder for him, but it also made him special. He was not afraid to be different. He understood that asking why was the first step to real discovery. Many people thought he was strange, but he didn't care. He believed that curiosity was a gift, not a problem. Looking back, Einstein's success began long before he became a scientist. It started with his deep love for learning. He didn't learn to please teachers or to get good grades. He learned because he wanted to understand the truth. In this way, Albert Einstein showed that curiosity is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It can lead to mistakes, but it can also lead to greatness. His curious mind was the key that opened the door to his genius. Part 4. The Road to Genius. After finishing school in Switzerland, Albert Einstein wanted to become a scientist. Life after school was not easy for young Albert Einstein. He wanted to study physics and math at a famous university in Switzerland called the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology. However, when he took the entrance exam in 1895, he failed. Einstein was only 16 years old at that time. He did well in math and science, but he was weak in other subjects, such as French, history, and geography. Because of that, he could not pass the whole exam. The school told him to finish his secondary education first, and then try again later. This was a hard moment for Einstein. Many people around him started to think he was not as smart as they had believed. But Einstein didn't give up. He studied hard at another school, in the small town of Aarau, where the teachers were more open-minded. There, he felt free to think and ask questions. 1 year later, he passed the exam and entered the university. Life there was not easy, but it was full of new ideas and freedom. For the first time, he felt that He truly belonged in a place where thinking differently was accepted. At the university, Einstein met students from many countries. They discussed science, philosophy, and life until late at night. Albert was full of energy and ideas. However, not all teachers liked him. Some professors thought he was too independent and didn't follow their lessons. As a result, he didn't always get high grades, but he continued to study what he loved most: physics and mathematics. When Einstein graduated, he hoped to find a job at a university. But things didn't go as planned. No school wanted to hire him. Some professors refused to recommend him because he had questioned their ideas during class. It was a hard time for him. He felt lost and worried about his future. For a while, Einstein worked as a tutor to earn money. He taught math and physics to students at home, but the pay was very low. Still, he never gave up. He continued to study alone, writing down his thoughts and trying to solve problems about light and energy. His notebooks were full of strange drawings and calculations that nobody else understood at the time. Later, with the help of a friend, Einstein got a job at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. His work was to check new inventions. Although it was not a scientific job, it gave him time to think. Every day, after finishing his work, he returned home and wrote his ideas about physics. This period of his life was simple but very important. While others might have seen a boring office job, Einstein saw an opportunity. He used his free time to think deeply about how the universe works. These quiet years in Bern became the foundation for his future discoveries. Einstein's path to success was not straight or easy. He failed, struggled, and felt lonely at times. But his love for science and his never-ending curiosity kept him going. Little did he know that soon his ideas would change the world forever. Part 5. The Miracle Year. In 1905, something amazing happened in Albert Einstein's life. He was still working at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern. His job was simple and quiet, but inside his mind, great ideas were growing. That year, he published 4 scientific papers that would change the world forever. People later called it his miracle year. The first paper was about light. At that time, many scientists thought light was only a wave. But Einstein had a new idea. He said that light was made of very small particles, which he called quanta, now known as photons. This idea later helped to create new technology, like solar panels and lasers. The second paper was about tiny particles moving in water. When you look at water under a microscope, you can see small bits of dust or pollen dancing around. Einstein explained that this motion was caused by invisible atoms hitting them. His explanation gave strong proof that atoms really exist, something many scientists still doubted at that time. The third paper was about his most famous idea, the special theory of relativity. Einstein said that space and time are connected and that they can change depending on how fast something moves. He showed that time can slow down and lengths can change when objects move near the speed of light. This was completely new and surprising to the world. The fourth paper contained a short formula that became one of the most famous in history. E equals mc squared. It means that energy and matter are two forms of the same thing. Even a small amount of matter can become a huge amount of energy. This simple equation later helped scientists understand nuclear energy and the power inside every atom. All these ideas came from a young man who didn't even work at a university. He had no laboratory, no big team, and no special tools, just a notebook, a pencil, and his imagination. Scientists around the world were shocked. They could not believe that someone working in an office could change physics in such a short time. Einstein's 4 papers quickly made him famous. Universities invited him to teach, and newspapers began to write about the young genius from Bern. He became a professor, but he stayed the same simple person, calm, curious, and full of ideas. The year 1905 showed that great discoveries can come from anyone, anywhere. Einstein's success was not only about intelligence, but also about passion and patience. He proved that thinking differently can lead to the biggest breakthroughs in science. From that moment on, the world saw Einstein not as a failed student, but as one of the greatest minds in human history. Part 6. The Truth Behind the Myth. Many people still believe that Albert Einstein was kicked out of school because he was stupid. But after learning about his story, we can see that this is not true at all. The truth is much more interesting and more inspiring. Einstein was not a bad student. He was simply different. He didn't like to memorize facts or repeat what others said. He wanted to understand ideas and think for himself. In the schools of his time, this attitude was a problem. Teachers wanted quiet students who followed orders, not dreamers, who asked why all the time. Because of this, Einstein often got into trouble. His teachers didn't understand him, and he didn't understand them. He left school early, but it was his choice, not a punishment. He wanted to study in a place that encouraged creativity and freedom of thought, and that decision changed his life. The myth that Einstein was too stupid for school started many years later. People liked to tell this story because it sounded surprising. A lazy boy who became a genius. But in reality, Einstein's curiosity and independence were always there. He didn't suddenly become smart. He was always learning in his own way. Einstein's life teaches us something important. Being different is not wrong. Sometimes schools and society do not understand people who think in new ways. But those people are often the ones who change the world. Einstein never tried to be like everyone else. He followed his interests, trusted his ideas, and never stopped asking questions. He once said, "I have no special talent. I'm only passionately curious." This simple sentence shows who he really was. Not a man of magic, but a man who loved learning deeply. So, was Einstein really kicked out of school for being stupid? No, he was misunderstood, not foolish. His story reminds us that mistakes and challenges can lead to success if we stay curious, patient, and brave enough to think differently. Albert Einstein proved that true intelligence is not about getting perfect grades. It is about never losing the desire to learn